Hi, I'm Mark Spenny, President and CEO of SAFQ. One of the best ways to avoid being a victim of a scam or identity theft is to learn about different types of scams, what some of the danger signs are, and some of the things that many scams and crooks have in common. As part of SAFQ's continued focus on financial education, we recently started hosting periodic seminars to help make members and our communities aware of the improving ways con artists are trying to defraud people. Our hope is that by watching these sessions, members of all ages, everywhere, will be more aware of what to watch out for and better equipped to protect yourself from becoming a victim of a scam. Thanks for taking a few minutes to watch. We hope you find them helpful.
My name is Brad Park. I am a police officer here with the Normal Police Department. I've been a police officer for almost a little bit over 18 years, and I was a detective for 11 of those years, specializing in financial crimes. So today we're going to talk about identity theft and scams. So give me 1 second here. So I thought we'd just start off quickly with giving a quick description of what financial identity theft is. A person commits the offense of financial identity theft when he or she knowingly uses any personal identifying information or personal identifying documents of another to fraudulently obtain credit, goods, services, or other property in the name of another person. So financial identity theft definitely is a growing trend in the crimes that we are seeing. And I'm sure Peoria PD can say the same. So what are some examples of some personal identifying information? There's a lot of different things that are very important to keep secure, such as your social security number, your driver's license number, your date of birth, your address, your phone number, obviously your bank account number and credit card numbers, and then things such as your mother's maiden name or other security questions that different businesses or banks may need to verify who you are. A lot of people ask, well, how do thieves obtain all this information? I apologize. How do thieves obtain this information? Well, there's several different ways. One thing could be a lost or stolen wallet, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Mail theft is always a big issue when it comes to your information getting out there for people. Dumpster diving, so not properly shredding your mail or disposing of it properly. Telephone solicitations are a way that criminals try to gather information about you over the phone by doing different types of scams. And then really just scams in general. We'll go over a lot of different types of scams today. A few other things are lack of computer security. So that would be something that's a little more technologically advanced, but if you are on an unsecured network and you're providing information over your computer, such as passwords, account numbers, unfortunately, people that are smart enough with computers can access that information. And data breaches, which we understand that, you can't be responsible for other businesses having a data breach where your credit card information or your personal identifying information is accessed, but just understand that that's how that information is obtained. So a couple types of scams that we're going to talk about today at length are overpayment scams, which we see quite a bit here in the Bloomington Normal area, especially with college campus. Romance scams, lottery or sweepstakes scams, and telephone scams. And one thing that I can't stress enough is it doesn't matter what your education is, what your age is, what your background is. Everybody can fall victim of scams. I have worked cases with elderly people being scammed as the victim, but I've also worked cases with professors at ISU being scammed, or employees at State Farm, Country Financial, all of these. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do. Everybody is definitely able to be a victim of any of these scams. So we'll first talk about overpayment scam. So what an overpayment scam is where a subject sends you a check to purchase an item, and the check is higher than the amount that you think that you should be getting paid. So with Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, if you're ever trying to sell something on there and somebody maybe from out of town says, I'd like to buy that. And actually for your hassle for getting it ready to ship, I'm going to pay you an extra $100 for your troubles. And then the next thing you know, you get a check in the mail and it might be for $500 more. What we see then is they'll ask you to go deposit the check and wire or transfer the remaining funds back to them. What you need to be aware of is a lot of the times, speak with your bank, be open and honest with what you're doing so that they can speak with you. And what happens is the check will turn out to be fraudulent. You've already received the funds from your financial institution and you've already sent that money back to them. And then the bank's going to call you and say, here's the deal. The check turned out to be fraudulent, a fraudulent account or a closed account. And you need to work with your financial institution to get those funds back. The one thing that I tell people is that if it's too good to be true, it probably is. So be very aware of that. We're going to talk about romance scams a few times today. And all of these are things that we just want people to know do take place very frequently. So what a romance scam is where you meet a subject online or through the mail and you begin a long distance relationship with that person. Generally, you're never going to meet this person face to face. They may send pictures. They may, a lot of the instances of this type of scam, they may say that they are in the armed forces and they're stationed overseas. And that's why they can't come and see you, but they're going to send you a picture of themselves, which is not going to be a true picture of who they are. They may send a picture of an aircraft carrier or some type of base that they're stationed at just to kind of play along to their story. And what happens is over time, this person earns your trust. But at some point, they're going to ask for you to send money or merchandise or gift cards, something that is going to make you at the time feel good about helping them out. There's going to be some type of story about their family needs help or they need the money to be released from their active duty status with the military so they can come back and meet you. Be very aware of these types of scams because they are very prevalent. So what lottery scams this is the sweepstakes scams that we see a lot of. You get a letter or correspondence in the mail stating that you may have won a drawing or a sweepstakes. And generally, these are some type of lottery or sweepstakes that you didn't even apply for. But when you get the letter and it says that you won, $15 million, it always kind of gets people excited. These are usually very high dollar amounts. The letter informs you to gather your winnings. To gather your winnings, you'll need to pay some type of insurance or some type of fee to repatriate your money over to the U.S. And you have to pay taxes on that first. And so before you even get a single, penny into your bank account, they're going to ask you to wire or transfer money to them. And once you do that, they kind of have you hooked at that point. What people need to understand with money wires, specifically Western Union or MoneyGram, a lot of the times when those are sent overseas, your local police agencies and federal police agencies cannot really go any further with our investigation. It's a very, very tough, very difficult to do. In these letters that you receive in the mail or maybe through an email, you're going to notice that they have misspelled words or incorrect grammar. Because these are being written by people that don't live in the United States. They're scam artists that live overseas, and they're trying to get as many people to fall victim for this as possible. So we'll talk next about some telephone scams and what you kind of see with the grandparent scams and a few others. So the grandparent scam is where maybe an elderly person, a grandparent, may get a call a lot of the times late at night when the grandparent isn't thinking clearly. They get a call from their grandson or granddaughter from a random phone number, and they're going to state that they were in a car accident or they did something wrong and they don't want to call mom and dad and they need money to get out of jail, or any type of story that they can make up that's going to kind of pull at the heartstrings of grandma and grandpa. And so what they'll do is they'll ask for money, they'll ask for funds to be transferred, just like a lot of the other scams. What we ask people to do at that point is to ask a lot of questions. Call mom or dad, call your son or daughter if you're the grandparent, and just ask them if your grandson or granddaughter is somewhere. A lot of times what we notice is they'll call and they'll say, no, they're fine, they're laying in their bed sleeping right now, that's a scam, hang up the phone. Other types of telephone scams that we see are fraudulent calls from individuals pretending to be your bank or financial institution or credit card company, and they ask to verify your information. You should never provide your account number over the phone, over the computer, if you don't know who you're speaking with. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. A lot of these people, they may have a foreign accent, since generally these types of scams do originate in different countries. So we'll talk really quickly about skimming. Skimming has to do with a criminal gathering your credit or debit card number without your knowledge. What a skimmer is, it could be anything as small as a small pack of gum, and it's just an electronic device that when your magnetic stripe on your credit card, which is called your track data, once you run it through that machine, it just stores that credit card information in that machine. Several places that your card can be skimmed at are restaurants, gas stations, ATMs, and really any merchant where you lose sight of your card. So I'm going to give a personal story here that I like to tell because I've been a victim of a skimming incident. Several years ago, my wife and I and my brother and his wife and a few other friends, we flew to the Dominican Republic for vacation. And when we were on the airplane flying over there, we were going to buy some drinks from the flight attendant. And so I ordered my drink. The flight attendant came back up and she told me, she said, I don't have our little machine that we generally carry. I have to, only have one thing in the back of the airplane to swipe your credit card to make payment for your drink. And so I gave her my credit card, and my wife, who at the time was in the banking world and is very intelligent about this stuff as well, she, I think, jokingly said, your card's being skimmed right now. And I kind of laughed it off, and we stayed in the Dominican Republic for a week. So long story short, we fly into Chicago about a week later, and I turn on my phone once we get into the airport. And one of the voicemails I had was from Visa. And so I called, and I immediately knew exactly what happened. I called Visa. They said, have you made any high dollar purchases in Mesquite, Texas over the past week? And I said, no, ma'am, I've been in the Dominican Republic for the past week. So what I did when I got back here to the police department is I did my own little investigation. I called the Sears in Mesquite, Texas to find out see if I can find out if I can get video from the person who used my credit card number, and was able to work with a great loss prevention person there. And the video that he sent me was our flight attendant using my credit card number at that Sears in Mesquite, Texas to make a high dollar purchase. So I then reached out to Mesquite PD, Texas PD, and spoke with the detective there and gave him all the information that he needed. And he was able to go and arrest that flight attendant at her place of employment while she was doing some training. So the point of the story is skimming can take place anywhere. That's why we tell people to check your credit card statements, check your bank statements, to make sure everything is on the up and up. So with online purchases, what I suggest to people is to have one credit card that you only use for your online purchases or have associated with maybe your Amazon account or any online accounts. And the reason that we ask people to do that is if for any reason you see any fraudulent charges on that credit card that you only use for online, then at that point you know that your credit card information was compromised online instead of compromised at a gas station, at an ATM, anything like that. So be aware that sometimes it is beneficial to have a credit card that you do use only for online purchases. So a lot of people come to the police department and they ask us, what should people do if I have been a victim of identity theft? File a police report. Check your credit report. You can contact the 3 credit reporting agencies, which is Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Notify the creditors about your fraudulent charges and dispute those transactions. And close any accounts that have been accessed fraudulently, and then definitely change your bank account and passwords if for some reason your bank account has been compromised. We also ask people, do not carry your social security card in your wallet or your purse unless it's necessary. There's no reason to always carry that with you. Minimize the number of credit cards you carry. No reason to carry around 5 different credit cards, because if your wallet or your purse gets lost or stolen, you have to go and call all of those and close those. Do not carry your child's social security card in your wallet or purse unless that's necessary. And please don't put your social security number on your checks. We spoke about checking your monthly bank statement. That's always a good thing to do. Make sure your mail is delivered to a secure mailbox, or at least get your mail on time. And be very aware of leaving unattended mail in a mailbox for pickup. What we tell people, when you put that red flag up on your mailbox, you're telling some criminals, hey, looky here, there's something in the mailbox that can be stolen. We talked about shredding mail. And on here, I have 2 websites that you can go to opt out of pre-approved credit card offers. It is called optoutprescreen.com. And then you can also do the National Do Not Call list, which is donotcall.gov. One couple more things here is never provide your personal identifying information during a phone call which you did not initiate. So what I suggest is if your financial institution calls you and they want to verify your bank account, please tell them that you're going to look up the phone number for your branch yourself, hang up that phone call, and then make that phone call yourself to your branch and ask if they have called and they need any type of account verification. That way you know that you're calling the right people and you're getting in contact with the right people. And then finally, the different ways to run your credit report. If you want to do it online, annualcreditreport.com. It is the website that's sponsored by the federal government, and it's a very good website to go onto and check your credit report. You can get a free credit report from each of the credit reporting bureaus 1 time per year. So you can get 3 free credit reports each year. And with that, that is about all I have.